Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a Faction Wars guide for the Ogryn Tribes. I will be showing you full infographics on my team that I use to 3-star, stage 21, full auto, 100% win rate. I will also show you the grades for each individual champion in the Ogryn Tribes, and then at the end, I will show you the actual footage of my 100% win rate, 3-star auto for the last stage of Ogryn Tribes. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so first things first, let me go ahead and fire up the infographic for my team that I was using. And I will have this down in a pinned comment. All the graphics I use in this video will be down there in a pinned comment, nice and easy to find for you to pull up if you want. And over on the right side, you will see there the finish difficulty. That's how hard it was for me personally to complete this faction and 3-star every stage in comparison to the other factions in the game. It was pretty hard, not impossible, it wasn't like the Dwarves or something, or Knight Rev, where it's one of the hardest factions in the game for me, but it was difficult, so I put it up there kind of towards the top. And then on this, you can see the average stats on the far left of the team that I use to clear. And then you can see in the middle of the infographic the roles of the different champions. So I was using Grush, the new epic to the game. He's pretty solid. I wanted to get him to cycle through his rotation as often as possible because he's really counteracting the healing and sustain for my team, counteracting the poisons that the Gerptuck is placing, bringing the utility of the damage dealing based on poisons and all that stuff. So you can argue that I should have used a reflex set on Grush because it's not so much getting the abilities off, like especially the A1, because you're going to be doing that a lot when you have a Relentless set on, but it's more cycling through the rotation to get that cooldown up as often as possible on his healing abilities. So you could argue Reflex would have been the better route to go on Grush, but I had good Relentless gear, so I threw it on him. And then I wanted to get his speed pretty good, so 193 with Relentless is pretty good for the rotation. You will see some items at level 15, like the ring on Grush, and then a bunch of items on Shamrock. It's because there is a Halloween fragment fusion event coming up at the time of me recording this, and I wanted to save a couple of those cheap easy points taking items from 15 to 16, so I'm holding off. I was trying to hold off and upgrade as little as possible to 16 until that event goes live, so I can scoop up those points and go through it and snap those up to 16 right when that goes live. Bellower, one of the best rares in the game, definitely top 3 no matter who you ask. So much general utility with all of that AoE. You put him in a stun set, as you see there, stun set, high speed with the Fearsome Presence passive, in the tier 6 in the defense tree, and he's just so suppressive against the waves. He can basically solo carry your team through the waves if you have him geared good enough. And then in the middle, you will see Shamrock. Guys, Shamrock is not bad, especially if you book him. He's pretty insane. He's got defense up, speed up for your whole team, and then he's got speed down for all enemies. He is a really solid champion with buff strip on the A1, and look at those base stats. 111 base speed is ridiculous. Good base defense, great base HP, 40 base resistance. Like, Shamrock is a beast in Faction Wars. You'll see that when I pull up the grades. If you are struggling in the Ogryn Tribes, he's worth books. He's not as bad as the community thinks he is. He got reworked like 4 or 5 months ago, and he's definitely a solid champ now, especially if you book him and get him in good gear. And then Gerptuck, he did get balanced a little bit better within the last month or two. They changed him in the most recent patch, so he used to be really bad and was really only used in very niche setups, but he's a little bit better now. He's still not a great legendary, but if you get a team that has some heals and has some sustain, and you get Grush or some sort of healer, or you've got people in lifesteal so they can handle the poisons that he's putting on the team, he's really not that bad, and he can help you chew through some enemies with the utility that he brings to the team. And then Ignatius is obviously an S tier champion for the Ogryn Tribes. He's kind of like the main damage dealer. You can see there I've got the numbers up, and he's by far the best damage dealer on the team. But yeah, Ignatius is a very solid champ just in general, so obviously no different in Faction Wars. But now let's put that away, and I will show you the infographic for the grades of the Ogryn faction here. So yeah, they've got some decent options. Ogryn is not one of the most filled out factions. They're towards the bottom end in terms of just raw number of champions available. It's not something like the Banner Lords or the Sacred Order where they've got a bunch of champions. So they're a little bit sparse, but they have been slowly adding things. Like they've added Gerptuk, and then they added Drakgul, and they've added Grush the Mangler, and then they added a rare in this most recent patch. You can see their Wagonbane, who I've got as a 5. So the champions aren't that bad, and Bellower is definitely, like, in terms of your cheaper, more easy to acquire options in the game, Bellower is definitely up there. If you have Bellower, get him invested in. You are for sure going to use him in the Ogryn faction wars. So if you've got a Bellower by now, the Void rare, definitely build him up. He is worth it. You will not regret it. And then Maneater, Skull Crusher, Shatterbones, Occult Brawler, all non-legendary options that are probably most optimal besides the legendaries. And then other than that, you're getting into the legendaries that are obviously going to be good, like Ignatius, Biggin, and Shamrock are the top 3 legendaries for faction wars in my opinion. But they've got some other decent options in Drakgul, Gurgo, War Mother, and Gerptuk can all do well in the right team as well. But those grades will be down in the description and a pinned comment, and it's really just data extrapolated from my tier list, and all I do is really narrow it down to just faction wars for the purposes of this video when going through it. But a link to my full tier list is down below in a pinned comment, nice and easy to find. But let's put that away for a second. And one thing I do like to touch on is the boss mechanics of stage 21, because if you're stuck on a boss fight on stage 7 or stage 14, the problem is probably not the boss. It's probably the development of your team, your gear, and those sort of things, and the champions that you've developed. So but it is possible to get stuck on stage 21, so I like to go through these mechanics really quickly here, and I will link to a forum post that goes over each of the individual bosses in detail down in the pinned comment as well, so you can pull that up and acclimate yourself to all the bosses. But the green boss is going to be what you're going up against in stage 21 for the Ogryn Tribes. The A1 is attack one enemy, place 5% poison on the target for 3 turns, decrease the target's turn meter by 35%. So that was a slight problem that I was running into while using Gerptuk, because Gerptuk places a bunch of poisons on my team. So my team was just getting roasted by poisons. So that's why I really wanted to get the Grush in the Relentless set to cycle through and get his heals up as fast as possible. So continuous heal, a lifesteal, leech, things like this are going to be very good versus this boss. Then we've got the A2 that is an AoE True Fear debuff for 1 turn, and also places more poison for 3 turns and decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 50%. That's by far the toughest mechanic of this boss in my opinion, but this boss is definitely a little bit more manageable than some of the other ones, like the boss in the Orcs that does the Mirror Universe and swaps all the buffs and debuffs and then heals itself every 12 turns. Basically, it gets down to 20% and fully heals, so that boss is tough. The boss in the Dwarves and the Undead that has an A1 that ignores all defense and just slaughters you for like 80,000 HP every time it does its A1. That boss is ridiculous in like the Dwarves and the Undead. So this boss is much more manageable than some of the other ones in my opinion, even though it does seem like it would be crazy with all the poisons and the AoE True Fear. Then we've got the A3, place an HP burn debuff for 1 turn on the attacker when hit. And then we've also got some adds on this boss here, but they don't seem to be too crazy. I would probably focus down the one on the left if I had to choose. Focus on the one on the left, focus on the one on the right, and then get after the boss. But all in all, the green boss, it seems to be one of the more manageable ones in terms of a boss fight itself, as opposed to a couple of the other ones that are super crazy that I talked about. But yeah, I would get you sent off to the footage of my run on stage 21, clearing it full auto with 3 stars, and everything that I use in this video, the grades and the boss fight and the infographic of my team, that will all be down in a pinned comment so you can find it nice and easily. So I will take off and get you over to the footage of my clear if you would like to see that. So as always, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Peace.